Jeremiah Smith will be Ohio State's cheat code against Texas.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. During today's show, we will discuss the competitive edge that Ryan Day and Patricia provide for Ohio State in the season opener against Texas. But first, Jeremiah Smith will be Ohio State's cheat code against Texas, and that gives the Buckeyes a real edge before the ball's even snapped. When you have a guy who can tilt the field by just lining up wide, everything changes for both teams. Texas has to account for him on every play. That means rolling coverages, pulling a safety out of the box, and living with one-on-ones everywhere else. And the truth is, most defenses still can't stop him. Smith's route running, speed, and ball skills make him nearly unguardable. But what really sets Ohio State apart is how they build around him. You give Ryan Day a weapon like that, and he turns it into a system-wide advantage. Defenses overcommit, and boom, the floodgates open. And this thought about Ohio State having a competitive edge over Texas, focusing on Jeremiah Smith, came from Big Ten media days. I was watching that and really soaking in everything that was said and what we learned. Think about Sharon Moore praising Jeremiah Smith. I think about what the players, Sonny Styles and Caleb Downs, and including Ryan Day, had to say about number 4. And I begin to think about the season opener, which is about a month away. And I begin to think about, well, Jeremiah Smith and him being bigger, faster, and stronger than he was last year, that he played fast last year, but he has a gear and a speed he can play at that no one's ever seen before. Y'all, Texas better be ready for what's coming up next. Because while they held him to one catch a year ago in the Cotton Bowl, I have a hard time believing this is going to happen once again, because Ohio State's team is built to open up against a team in Texas that returns a lot of firepower on both sides of the ball, but they also lost a lot of guys to the NFL. So while they bring back some firepower, some guys that started from last year's team, they also lost guys to the National Football League. And so they are in a similar situation to Ohio State. Not the same one, but it's similar, where you're trying to place top-end talent that were draft picks. You have a new starting quarterback, where Texas, I think, in this scenario, in this game, literally has the advantage at quarterback because Arch Manning has starts under his belt. Arch Manning has played more ball than a lot of backups in college football, some due to Quinn Ewers' injury, some due because he's a really talented quarterback. Let's just be honest about it. But while he's really talented, Jeremiah Smith is different. And I'm not sitting here saying different just as fill space. I can say things like he is the Randy Moss of this season, and that's not a false statement. Or the fact that he could play with the speed of the fastest receiver that you've ever seen. I wouldn't say that kind of speed, but I mean, I bet you Jeremiah Smith runs a 4.340. So there's a speed, there's a gear that he's never played with that will be scary to see in the fall. And while Texas is coming up to Ohio State, and Texas believes that they can have a competitive edge in numerous areas, and Texas believes they can beat Ohio State, there's one thing true about this offense. Jeremiah Smith is a guy that is bigger than he was last year. He's faster, and he is stronger. And so while Texas did some really good things, committing a lot of resources to Jeremiah Smith a year ago, I have a hard time believing they're going to do that same thing again, because if you do it once, and I guess it kind of worked, or maybe it did work, would you want to do the same thing again when you're not facing the same team and you already have film of what happened a year ago and it worked? You might try to change things up. But here's the hard part for Texas. While Jeremiah Smith provides a really decisive advantage for Ohio State in the passing game, there are other guys that aid Jeremiah Smith being a cheat code, and they provide a great edge for Ohio State too. Think about it. While Emeka Buka is gone, Ohio State still has Carnell, Tate, Brandon Inniss, who is a new starter. They now have Max Clare, who's the best tight end in the Big Ten. You have Will Kazmarek, who's not known for being a threat in the passing game, But I wouldn't be shocked if he's stepping up into having a bigger role in the passing game this year. You have James Peoples and CJ Donaldson behind the starting quarterback. It wouldn't shock me if Bo Jackson plays a little bit in this game, probably not in passing situations, but probably plays a little bit. I think Ohio State in the receiving room that they have, let's say Mylan Graham plays too, or Bryson Rogers. I mean, these receivers at Ohio State, they're going to cause so many headaches for Sark, for Texas's defense, where they're going to try to do some things, but Inniss is not the same slot as Emeka Buka or Carnell Tate. So why? I mean, he's not better than Ibuka. I do think he does some things a little bit different. Where Carnell Tate has another year, as a year under his belt as being a starter. He's also bigger, faster, and stronger. So you have another year, another guy on the outside that's a number one receiver. So if you want to throw all those resources to number 4, number 17 is going to be open because he's going to beat one-on-one coverage. But if you want to put 2 or 3 guys on number 4, Max Clear is going to be right there, either line up as a normal tight end slot, or maybe he's going to be in the slot, little split out wide action, or maybe he'll be the wide receiver by the sidelines and spit out there by himself against a linebacker, whatever the case may be. There are so many different angles that add to Jeremiah Smith's competitive advantage that he provides to Ohio State. There are things that he does. There are things that the team has, or the way it's built. And I feel like Texas, yes, they're going to come to Ohio State. They are going to try to bring all the noise and all the bulletin board material with them. That is great. But there's a reason why Texas has Ohio State favored right now. The line is currently Ohio State minus 2.5. The money line is Ohio State minus 140. And the over-under is set at 50.5. That's via our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. And as they're making every moment more with this game, I wouldn't be shocked if the line moved to 3 or even 3.5 the closer we get the kickoff. I think 3.5 is where it's going to stop. I don't think it's going to be 3. Probably 3.5. It's where it's going to sit. And I'm on the record. I'm not going to shy away from things I've said this offseason about this game. I am on the record of saying earlier this offseason, I was worried about Ohio State in this game. 100%. Part of it was I didn't know who the new defensive coordinator was going to be. I didn't know what defense Ohio State was going to run. Really looking forward to the chemistry with these new guys on defense and the inexperience there. But then really thinking about it over the past week about, while Ohio State's defensive line is going to be new, it's going to have new faces. Those are guys that don't really have a lot of starts under their belt, but they've played a lot of ball in backup roles. So I'm very comfortable with the 2 guys in the middle in McDonald and Houston. I'm very comfortable with the guys on the outside and Atkinson and K-Jack and Caden Curry and Hicks playing on the edge as well. And maybe you're going to see Arvell Reese on the edge as well. Can't forget Logan George. That was where a lot of my hesitation came into. Then I dove into the offensive line, which I'm way more comfortable with than I normally am this time of year. Sam, quarterback, Keenholz, quarterback, whichever one wins the job, they're going to be able to sling the rock all around the yard. And it all comes back to number 4. I know we can't focus on the guy on the outside because it all starts from the inside then going out. But when the inside is secure for the Buckeyes offense with the offensive line, that will add to how elite and prolific Jeremiah Smith will be out on the football field in the season opener against Texas, where he is a cheat code. I also think Matt Patricia provides a certain tactical edge for the Buckeyes against Texas as well. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you all for tapping and Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. We will be diving more into fall camp prep the rest of the week, leading into fall camp starting on July 31st. It's so weird to say that fall camp is almost here. This has also been a really interesting offseason for Ohio State. Because I was thinking about this too, where in any given offseason for the Buckeyes, you have coaching, maybe some coaching issues or guys leaving, and then you bring a new guy in. Last year, coaching wise, it was Tony Alford leaving in spring practice, and then Carlos Flacco coming over from Eugene, Oregon. Him coming in this spring added to a lot of offseason discussions about why this hire made a lot of sense. His inexperience as being a RB coach, but also having a lot of experiences finding ways to quickly develop guys. And then anything about some of the portal stuff. And then remember McCord after the 23 loss to Michigan. There was a lot of stuff going on, or Ryan Day in the hot seat, but really winning the national championship and Ohio State really not being in the midst of any fire made this offseason pretty odd. But one of the bright spots of this offseason was the hire of Matt Patricia. Yes, it came with its own level of scrutiny, and it's Ryan Day getting this right, and has Patricia learned his lesson from what happened in the latter part of the 90s and the legal issues that he had. People were digging, people were poking and prodding. And I think when you look back to the hire, it's going to work. It is 100% going to work. Because Ryan Day made it very, very clear that Ohio State is going to run Ohio State's defense. They're not running Patricia's defense. However, while Ohio State's running the same defense that they have been running, there is still a tactical edge and advantage that Patricia provides. Because one thing Patricia did very, very well in New England was find ways to adjust the defense to the personnel. And you think back to the Patrick Chung or the various guys, the Gerard Nayos of the world, that were guys that were in Patricia's rooms. They were in the meetings. There were guys that Patricia was trying to create schemes for so they could be very, very successful. And it would have been very, very easy for him to say, no, you come here, you do what we do. No, Patricia said, I'm going to work with you. I'm going to find your strengths, and I'm going to work with your weaknesses to create a defense that allows your strengths to flourish and does a pretty good job of hiding your weaknesses. Different players come in and out the National Football League, and Patricia's defenses were great. Patricia's defenses were phenomenal en route to winning multiple Super Bowls when he was leading the Patriots defense. And when you think about this year's defense for Ohio State, yes, it will be Ohio State's defense, the base 4-2-5. But you're going to see more 3-down looks than you have in the past. You're going to see more stand-up 2-point defensive ends than you have in the past. You're going to see more of Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, or maybe there were times that Ohio State was going to run a 4-3 a year ago or the past few years, but they say, no, these two guys can do it because you also have a guy in the slot at the nickel corner spot that knows how to put his nose right there in the mud and get a little dirty and get a little physical to slow the opposition down. And so I think that Matt Patricia, working with Ohio State's defense, but providing his own creativity for the defense to flourish, is going to be huge for Ohio State against Texas. Because like I mentioned, Arch Manning is now starting for Texas. Texas lost a lot of guys on their offensive line. And so if you just start up front, like I mentioned in the last segment, everything starts in the middle, then goes out on offense and on defense. So for the Buckeyes defense, if you want Downs to flourish, if you want IGB to have an opportunity to not have them sticky hands on the opponent's jersey, you got to find a way to get penetration up the middle. I think Edric Houston's quickness. I think McDonald's power. I think CJ Hicks' speed. I think Atkins' combination of power and speed at 260 pounds. I think those things are going to give Ohio State a great advantage early on. I literally forgot K-Jack, who some say he is built like a future first-round pick. And then Caden Curry, who's literally a Swiss Army knife, who is a playmaker. Side note, Somebody came at me, may have been on TikTok, and I don't normally read the comments, but this has just popped up and said, "Don't you know he plays defensive end?" Well, don't you know that guys that play defense, right, if it's a defensive end or a linebacker or a safety, they all make plays. You know who's a playmaker that was on Ohio State's defense that's now the NFL? Tyleik Williams, Tui Malowau, Sawyer, Ty Hamilton. Now, Ty Hamilton's playmaking ability is a little bit different because it doesn't show up in the playbook. But by the very definition of being a playmaker, he made plays. Look, I know I'm crazy. I know I say a lot of things that may wow you sometimes, but Caden Curry to me, that dude is a playmaker. I've been seeing it for about 5, 6, 7 years now, going back to when he was a dude at Center Grove High School on the south side of Indianapolis. Don't try to question me on this one right now. Homie is a playmaker, and that is going to add to Patricia finding ways to create problems for Texas's offensive line. I think the thing that when it comes to CJ Hicks and Arvell Reese playing on the edge, it's interesting because those two guys had the least amount of experience on the Buckeyes, say front six, playing on the edge. I think Hicks is in the right spot, but if you think you're going to get the best of Hicks in game number one, I think you're a little wrong there because you're not. It's very similar to the things that I've mentioned numerous times about it's very hard to replicate game experience. So while Hicks has done things off the edge and he's done some one-on-one drills and he's done some things watching film, none of those things can replicate what it is like to line up on the edge when you have a coordinator that knows your weaknesses and strengths. You have a quarterback that is very talented. Not the most talented quarterback in the country, but is very talented. You have guys on your side that are counting on you, not just putting you in the right position to be successful. They're counting on you to get off the ball quickly, to make the right read, to understand your keys, and to follow and do everything Matt Patricia and Larry Johnson are asking you to do. That's very, very difficult for a guy that's out there for the very first time. You might not get the best of CJ Hicks, at least early in the season, where you know, oh, he's popping off, he's emerging until Big Ten play. I mean, granted, you can get it in the second and third non-conference games, but here's my problem with those. Those are against cupcakes, and those are against teams Ohio State should smack, absolutely slaughter. There's absolutely no reason why Ohio State should not put up 70 against Grambling State. None whatsoever. Yes, Grambling State's going to have some athletic guys. They're going to try to do things to trip Ohio State up. Let's just be real. It's Ohio State. And this is not an elitist state. Well, maybe it is, because the Buckeyes are an elite team in the country. Grambling State isn't even an elite FCS program. So there's no reason why this should even be a contest. I mean, 21-0 in the first quarter, and then you think about pulling your guys in the halfway through the second quarter. Why? Because it should be so out of hand. You bring in your twos in the second quarter. You can even put your threes in the fourth because the game shouldn't be close. There's so many things Matt Patricia is going to provide for Ohio State this year. And I think Hicks is going to be one of those guys by game 3, 4, and 5. Well, games 4, 5, and 6. Let's go that far. Let's get out of the non-con slate. You're going to get the best. You're going to get some pretty good play from Hicks because Matt Patricia is going to create a defense that allows CJ Hicks to flourish. Well, while Patricia's creating a defense that's going to allow Hicks to flourish, I think Ryan Day has a blueprint that'll help Ohio State flourish against Texas on Labor Day weekend. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. Y'all, that's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. Tired of endless scrolling, trying to find the best deal? Game Time's zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. With Game Time, the price you see is the price you pay, no hidden fees. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you all for tapping and Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Ryan Day knows what he's doing when it comes to facing a really good team week one. Think back to the 2022 season. Ohio State opened up with Notre Dame in the season opener, and that game was very, very special. It was year 2 of Stroud being QB1. It was Xavier Johnson's coming out party, man, I want to say, because a lot of people had no idea who this young man was. There were numerous plays Ohio State made in that game, both offensively and defensively, where the defense really made things nearly impossible for Notre Dame to move the ball, that allowed Ryan Day to look back to the game plan, to look back to that year, to look back to that offseason preparation for that game to say, hey, y'all, I've been here. I've done this before. And I know what it takes on my end for me to do it again. And I know how to push the right buttons for the players on the team for y'all to do it again too. Because if you think back to that game in that season, it was pretty hard to predict what was going to happen in that game. Because Ryan Day in his season openers, 2019, I don't forget, it was a G5 school, it was a non-conference game against a weak opponent. 2020, the home opener was against a Big Ten team, which is a little bit different. I'm ruling out COVID year because that whole year was so wacky. It's nothing like what's going on right now. 2021, it was a G5 school before the Buckeyes played Oregon at home. 2022, it was a Notre Dame year. 2023, a weak non-conference game because they didn't play. 2021 was Minnesota. 2022 was Notre Dame. That was a weak non-conference game, but I remember Stroud's first start was against the Golden Gophers, where Mo Ibrahim was really close to upsetting the Buckeyes by himself until unfortunately he suffered a pretty bad injury in that game. So if you think back to the Minnesota game, let's go that far. Minnesota and then Notre Dame. Minnesota is not the Fighting Irish, but Minnesota is a physical, disciplined football program that's right below they're probably like tier 3, borderline tier 2, depending on the year and how PJ Fleck is going with things. You know what, PJ Fleck, the older a team is in his locker room, the better the team is going to be. That's not the case with every team out there, but PJ Fleck normally gets the best out of his team when his players are 4- and 5-year guys. That day, literally, I'm not going to say it was all because of an injury, but Minnesota could have upset Ohio State. I was literally thinking about coming on the show after the game and discussing Ohio State losing and what it means for the Buckeyes after going to the national championship and then, losing to a team that you were clearly better than. The Notre Dame game still sticks out even bigger than the Minnesota game because Notre Dame is on the same tier as Texas. You think about 2 from a year ago, not even the game from 2022. Those players, some of them may still be on the team, but it's a different team than back then. Notre Dame was a second best team in the country a year ago. They beat Penn State because they made better plays down the stretch. They made Ohio State play 4 full quarters of football. Ohio State had a pretty big lead. They had the game in hand, but they let Notre Dame stick around, let Notre Dame stay confident. They let Notre Dame really create some momentum and get into the end zone. Next thing you know, Ohio State, 3rd and 11, went to Jeremiah's 5th, game over. I think Ryan Day is going to look back to the Minnesota game and the Notre Dame game, those season openers, and say, what worked for us? One was on the road, one was at home, but what worked? What didn't work? What are we doing differently now than we were back then that will help us or maybe hurt us? Ryan Day's been here. He's done that. And I say that because I went back to look at Texas's schedule under Sark since Sark took over as the head coach of the Longhorns in 2021. They have never had Texas, that is, has never had a season opener against a Power 4 school since Sark has been the head coach. 2021 was against the Raging Cajuns. 2022 was against Louisiana Monroe. 23 was against Rice. 24 was against Colorado State. The interesting thing about the schedule was game 2 was always against a Power 4 opponent. Arkansas in 21, Bama in 22, at Bama in 23, at Michigan last year. In those games, where the second game is against a Power 4 opponent, second game of the season for Texas, they are 2-2. They lost the first two. They lost to Arkansas 40-21, lost to Alabama 20-19. And then the past couple of years, they beat Alabama on the road 34-24. And they beat Michigan last year 31-12. Weird thing is, all these are non-conference games. I went back and actually looked. Texas's last year was in the SEC was last year, so they literally played 3 SEC schools in a row in the non-con slate before being in the SEC. It's pretty good prep for being in the Southeastern Conference, which is, I mean, I love watching SEC ball. I am probably more a SEC guy than a Big Ten guy. Big Ten football is good. It's physical. It's a grind. It's grueling, but there's a reason why the Southeastern Conference is the Southeastern Conference, and they say it just means more. There's also a reason why a lot of the talent from the South stays in the South. It helps those teams down there be some of the better teams in the country. Now, I don't think, let's get on this, I wasn't really planning on doing it. I don't think that their scheduling matches the Big Ten. I'm a proponent of everybody playing either 8 or either 9 conference games. I don't care what the number is. If you want to play 8, cool. If you want to play 9, cool. Great. I do care. Make it 9. I don't want to go 10 because I don't think if you go 10, it's like, well, you're playing half the league and a lot of those teams are trash. So some Penn State, you're going to have years where Penn State has a very easy schedule because that's just how their Big Ten slate works. And then Ohio State in the same year has a very tough schedule. I do think, though, when it comes to the playoff format for the future, I do think there needs to be some uniformity in scheduling across the board. Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, ACC, and even Notre Dame. Some uniformity along the board. I don't care if you're an independent or in a conference. Just make this conference, make the schedules as even as possible, and let that thing go. One thing I think for Texas is that Sark has never prepared for a big-time opponent in week 1, especially when it's on the road. They won that game. The year before that, they also won that game. It was a Big Ten opponent. It was on the road at Minnesota. Not the most hostile environment in the country, but it is pretty wild, especially it was on a Thursday night. So that added to another desire for fans to go there because you can get liquored up. You can go out there and have a good old time, call off work. Well, hopefully use your PTO so you're not getting penalized the next day for calling off because people don't like when you call off work. I get it. If you can plan and prepare for it, great. If you can't, I understand it. Things happen. But people don't like when you call off work. Ryan Day has a competitive edge in this game. Patricia provides a competitive edge. And everybody knows that cheat code number 4, provides a competitive edge as well. The game is about a month away. I have not made my official pick for this game yet. But trust me, I am closer and feeling more comfortable with Ohio State in this game against Texas than I was a few months ago. Thank y'all for tapping into Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the portal because my guy Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. You could be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. You can find the portal and Locked on Buckeyes on the YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send to every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked on Buckeyes on a Monday. We'll see you next time.